been a busy time for Call of Duty World War II as of the past couple of weeks, and especially on the developmental end, trying to fix some of the many issues that have been plaguing players left, right, and center. And while it is something in which everybody is pretty much their own unique situation, and a lot of people may be having some issues that a lot of other people may not be, it's something in which there's still across the board a lot of things to tackle on the developmental end. And while today was one of those things where people expected an update because of the introduction of COD points into World War II and the ability to buy supply drops now, which, by the way, a lot of people thought that there would be some DLC weapons coming. They're not there just yet. Once again, as we talked about in a recent video, probably mid-December we'll start seeing stuff roll out as per norm with the last couple of years. And somebody ended up tweeting a couple of pictures in which they supposedly got the Arasaka, but that's not actually the case. The dimensions are off on the text, and the person that actually tweeted this, they ended up tweeting screenshots of them adjusting it with the Photoshop layers not on just yet. So if that's one of those things, you gotta just make sure you keep that out of the way for trying to fool some people. But also, that was actually not one of the weapons that is the furthest along in the developmental process, those being the Reichs Revolver, the Beretta 30, and the Gewehr or the Gewehr 43. Those are the ones we'll probably see first, but I digress. Once again, this update, if you want to call it that today, some people were hoping for some fixes within Call of Duty World War II. However, that actually didn't add anything in terms of that. So today we're gonna be taking a look at 7 things that are confirmed to be having fixes or some adjustments coming in the near future within World War II. 7 adjustments here to the game, some much larger than others in game, but that will be coming nonetheless in the very near future. So that said, what we're gonna be talking about today has been addressed via Michael Condrey's Twitter, other outlets that Sledgehammer operates, and other places alike. So that said, they're coming from the official sources, and there's something that we can once again look forward to in the very near future. As per when a time frame, we don't know just yet, but they'll be coming. So let's start out with one of the big ones, this probably being one that you have noticed a million times over if you end up playing multiplayer at all, because it's one of the maps that gets played more often, that being the glitch on Point to Hawk. Now, this one is just so incredibly infuriating, I think, and it's one that truly I think is probably the easiest glitch to ever get inside of. Now, you probably know about it. I don't really want to talk too much about how to do it just because I don't want to encourage this, but you end up getting into the rocks between the cliff side and then the trench side of the map as well too, in which you're pretty much invincible unless somebody else gets up there with you or gets some random grenade, which I don't even know if I've seen somebody get killed out of there via grenade because of all the barriers and rock surfaces that protect them. But you can end up being in an invincibility glitch if you want to put it that way. You can shoot through the rocks, people can't shoot through them to you, and essentially you can just camp up there, and it's one of the most, once again, infuriating things I think about the game. There's not many times where a glitch bothers me, but this is one of those ones where I literally just stay away from that entire area of the map, but it hinders the gameplay performance. This is being addressed and will be updated to be fixed in an upcoming update. Now, whether or not that is a title update or a hotfix, we don't know. It's possible that it could be one or the other. They're both possible to be fixed in hotfix and title update, but it is something that may very well depend on how fast another thing it can be bundled with needs pushed out as well too. So maybe some server fixes, some disconnect issues or connection issues with headquarters. If that's a hotfix item, it'll probably be thrown in the mix as well too. But it's definitely one that's going to kick off, one that I know you guys definitely have known about as well too. So we're going to start that out with number 1. Now, the second thing I want to talk about here today deals a little bit with hardcore modes only. Now, for those of you guys that play core, it's something you don't have to worry about this at all. But the hardcore community is very diehard and takes this very seriously. And even if you just dabble in hardcore, it's something you should take seriously because it is an issue right now within World War II. This dealing with team killing, and thus right now there is no real penalty for a player team killing their teammates, and there's nothing that really can result in it other than them hurting the other player's statistics in game. So that's something in which previously we've either had a ricochet or we've had a team kick option, in which after 3 team kills, a player would be kicked and taken out of the game, thus effectively removing the problematic situation from the equation. But then there's also the ability to ricochet, in which if somebody is going for a team kill, that damage is not dealt to the player they're shooting at, but is instead reflected back towards them so that they take the damage. This is something in which both scenarios have been incredibly effective in previous years, but right now with nothing being there in place, it's something that really just encourages that troll mentality for ruining gameplays or just messing with somebody entirely. So it is something that will be fixed, has been addressed by Michael Condrey personally, and thus hopefully it's something that rolls out soon. Moving along in our list, there's going to be an adjustment to the primed basic training, in which right now it is probably one of the most crutch basic trainings in the game. For those of you guys that don't know what primed is or haven't played around too much with it to really understand the full potential of what it allows players to do, firstly, it allows you to have an extra attachment, which is great in any scenario. If you want to have an SMG and airborne, it gives you that freedom to have a little bit more of a more powerful weapon by adding on that extra attachment. But if you want to say throw it on with infantry, having 4 attachments is literally insane sometimes. So it is something that already offers one advantage there within, but primed also decreases the amount of flinch that you have in gunfights. Now, if you guys know how World War II works, that's something in which that is a very big necessity. Flinch almost makes semi-automatic rifles useless in a sense because it will kick your aim so high up, and in a gunfight, those 1 to 2 shots that you end up missing or the enemy hits before you end up recentering your shot, that can be life or death. So primed is a very crutch perk in a sense in which it needs to have some sort of equilibrium in which it doesn't become too powerful, doesn't become too weak, and it's not something that necessarily needs to be a crutch must-needed basic training on every class. Now, Condry addressed this head-on over on Twitter, in which they said they were looking to adjust the global flinch values to ensure it matches the gold standard of Black Ops 2, that it's in line with running toughness. And for those guys that have been around since Black Ops 2, that is pretty much the gold standard for that flinch reduction. So that said, they're looking to make it in line with that, and that is something that I can get behind. It's just a matter of hopefully it comes soon. Now, the next thing up on the list deals with footstep audio, because those guys that end up playing it, you also know that there might be at the moment a crutch division, that being Mountain Division, in which it ends up making your footsteps silent. And while that's something that is nice, you also can't have any of the benefits of any of the other divisions or anything like that unless you have a basic training that kind of overlaps. But nonetheless, it becomes once again kind of a crutch division at that point. But also the footstep audio outside of Mountain Division is incredibly loud to the point where it will definitely become annoying if you have any experience with any dead silence perks in the past or have a headset in general. It's something that gives away positions incredibly fast, so that's going to be adjusted, that's going to be tuned down a little bit so that maybe it brings it more in line with either a lessened audio for the footsteps, maybe something else, but I think that's the only way we could adjust it, is by bringing that global footstep level down to the point where it's not as audible, but also still doesn't take away from the fact that Mountain Division has silent footsteps. But nonetheless, that's going to move us over into another one, which some people might not be too fond of, but a shotgun buff is on the horizon as well too. Now, I can understand where people will get upset and say, you know what, this is absolutely crazy, we don't need a buff to shotguns, they're a one shot, they kill me all the time. But that's one of those things in which, having done some of the challenges for the shotguns, I'll tell you that they are incredibly weak. There are maybe some occasions in which they do turn out to be nice and handy, but for the most part, a lot of the times they are rather weak. And thus, unless you're right on top of somebody, which very well could be frustrating if you get killed off by that, but it's something that a lot of the times, even when you're up close and personal, that range of the one-shot kill is still rather small. So as to how much of a buff, that's not been detailed, but it is mentioned that it is on the horizon. And the next thing actually deals with some issues that some players may still be experiencing. You might be one of them, hopefully not, but it deals with the black screen errors within World War II, in which a lot of people end up having reports of loading in the game, getting past the Sledgehammer, Raven, Call of Duty World War II menu, but as soon as they end up getting to that, they end up getting a black screen and can't really do anything from there, to which they can try and restart the app, but it'll do the same process all over again. And of course, just because why not, even when you uninstall and reinstall, try it again, it'll do the same thing. So as it stands right now, that is a bug they're aware of and are going to be taken care of, once again, hopefully soon, because I hate to see people missing out on this just because of some bug that won't let them pass the loading screen. But the final thing I want to talk to you guys here about today is one you might have also noticed at some point in time in the past 2 weeks, but it's been here since the launch. That is a little bit of a glitch that happens in headquarters, and more specifically, dealing with the firing range. Now, huge thank you to my good friend Tabor Hill for the footage here. He actually captured this in its entire glory, or I guess if you want to call it that. But it is something in which, by some sort of way that I don't know how to do it, players in the firing range can just spray their weapons out into the open of the headquarters and eventually end up killing players in the headquarters. Very similar to as if it were a regular game, and then they just respawn back at that initial entry point in which you load into it at the very beginning, and then you can go about your business as is again, unless you run into their fire once again. But while it is again a bug that is known, it is something that, at least the nice side of this is that that the visibility and the range in which players can actually see and shoot off into the distance into the headquarters is very slim. So if you can get past it, you can experience the rest of the headquarters without having to worry about somebody griefing you or trolling you, but it still, once again, can get kind of annoying. So that's going to be fixed and updated in an upcoming patch. Once again, maybe hotfix or title update. We're not entirely sure just yet, but that is going to conclude the 7 things here that are going to be changed within the very near future of Call of Duty World War II. And that said, it's quite possible we get a lot more fixes, and truthfully, hopefully we do get a lot more fixes to the game, because there are still a ton of issues out there, but these are ones that I've found detailed by official sources and addressed head-on by the developers of the game, and thus, hopefully for all of our sake, we end up getting a fix and adjustments to these sorts of things as soon as possible. But that said, that's where we're going to wrap it up, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Is there anything in particular you want to see fixed? Is there anything out of this list in particular that you guys enjoy that is being addressed and is something that is a known issue to the developers and Sledgehammer? Of course, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course, if you guys are new to the channel as well, make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date with everything we have here regarding updates via patches, hot fixes, news, information, best class setups, a ton of other stuff. We got you covered here up on the channel. Anything regarding Call of Duty World War II. If it interests you at all, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected with me outside of YouTube. I practically live on Twitter, so if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. But that said, out of the way, hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.